Okay, let's see if I can remember how to do this. Hello and welcome to episode 17 of my knitting and crafting podcast. My name is Mel and this is a video podcast primarily about knitting and other yarny crafts. So it has been a while since my last podcast. It's October, maybe? Sometime in October. I know it was before Halloween anyway. But it's just, it's not as if I haven't been crafting. I have. I've had a bit of castonitis as well over in December. But I just haven't been to get in front of the camera. Just not been feeling it at all. But we're back again now and yeah, let's crack on. So my first finished object would be this sweater. As you can see, I have shown it on the podcast before when just the yoke was done, but I have completed it now. So this is the arachne sweater and I will stand up and show you the full thing. Or I will try to. Okay, it is a short sleeved, or I have done short sleeved sweater. The original pattern is 3/4 and I've made it as the pattern in that it's quite cropped. It kind of hits my hip crease is sort of here and it's just above my hip crease, and works really well. Really like it, like the fit, like the shape and like the colour, and I will tell you a bit more about it when I sit back down. Okay, so as I said, this is the arachne sweater and the original pattern colours were in this navy blue and lime green. The pattern is by Andy Satterland of I can't remember what her Instagram handle is, but I will pop all the links down below anyway. And I've knit at least one other of her patterns recently. Actually, I knit the Ichabod cardigan, which I believe was in the same pattern range as this one, and I knit this on a 3.5mm needle, and I will show the yarns that I used, or I'll show you what I have left and what I don't have left, because I ran out of yarn on this project. The main yarn, the grey, is a yarn that I picked up from the charity shop fairly recently in the last couple of years, and it is a commercial stock yarn which is no longer available. It's an older yarn. It is by Sunbeam and it is called St. Ives, or the range is called St. Ives, if it will focus. There we go, Sunbeam St. Ives, and it is a sock yarn which is a 80% wool, 20% nylon. Oh, focus over here. I was hoping I would have enough yarn, but I didn't. So what I had to do was I had to supplement the yarn when it came to doing the rib. So what I did was I got so far down the body I thought, I'm running a little low. So when I finished one ball I stopped, and then I knit the sleeves down to the minimum length that I would like the sleeves to be, and reassessed how much yarn I was going to have left, and he said, yep, I'm definitely going to run out. So I stopped, I put all the yarn for both sleeves, did both sleeves to the same length, and stopped and put all the stitches on hold, knowing that I was going to use a different yarn for the rib. But you can't tell unless you are looking for it because they are so close. And then I did the same with the body. I knit as far down the body as I could. I basically knit till I had no more yarn left, and then I switched to the second yarn for the rib on the bottom of the sweater as well. The yarn I ended up using for the rib was from my sock yarn stash, which is Drops Fable in colourway 200. The St. Ives is colourway 3062, but it's discontinued, so it doesn't really matter. It's a really close match. The original grey is definitely a cool grey. It's not that it's got I suppose it has got slightly blue undertones, but it's not blue, but it's definitely not even a neutral grey. It's very much a cool grey. The Drops Fable, on the other hand, is slightly closer to a neutral mid-grey than this original yarn. So I couldn't really mix it in with the other. I couldn't literally start knitting straight away. So that's why I only knit the rib with this. There might have been, I don't even think I did the last row with this. I think I went straight on into the rib, or maybe it's one row of rib with the original yarn and then into this. Because although it's really close, it's not exact, and it would have been noticeable in a plain coloured sweater, whereas in something like a semi-solid or multicoloured yarn it might not have been quite so noticeable. But that's what I did. And the contrast yarn for the yoke is another one from my drop stash. I'm getting bits of yarn all over me. I apparently kept all my little offcuts of the original yarn in case I needed them for an emergency, and they're all stuck to the contrast yarn. The contrast yarn I used was this one, which is again from my drop stash, which is Drops Flora, and it is a wool alpaca blend, and that is in colourway 03, and it is a soft pale grey. And although the grey flecks are of a cooler grey, the background colour, the background palest pale grey, I would say is more of a neutral tone, but it works really well and it works nicely with this sweater, so that's okay. Okay, so any changes that I made, I didn't do the waist decreases. The sweater, the original design, is kind of a vintage fit in that it comes in at the waist and then has quite a long rib at the bottom, but I didn't want that. I wanted this to work more for with jeans and such like, so it only has a small rib, not a big rib, and it doesn't have any waist shaping, which I would have liked to have had both, in that it would work better with a skirt, obviously, if it was a bit more fitted. But I'm more likely to wear this with jeans, so hence the no waist shaping, and it works really well. I've got this over a shirt today, and I've worn this over a dress, a short sleeve dress, and it works quite well as well. So really pleased with it, and that would be finished item number 1. Okay, finished object number 2 is a shawl, and I've shown this part done on the podcast too, and it is huge. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to show it all. It is really rather large, and it is a triangle shawl with a garter triangle, lace and colour work and more garter, and then a picot edge on it. And this design is the Widdershins shawl by, and I have got it written down somewhere, it's Sashiko B is her Instagram handle, but I will put the designer's name up on the screen somewhere here. And I'm going to try and show you the original pattern without showing the pattern. Now, the original pattern, as you can see, was from this beautiful deep blue and these semi-solid golden colour, and you may have noticed I've changed the colourwork chart. This chart has moons, stars and suns, and what I've done is got rid of the suns and made 2 crescent moons and a full moon in the middle to make a moon phase symbol, but kept the stars, kept the crescent moons, added an extra moon instead of the sun, and added an extra crescent moon in reverse. So I'll show you that a bit closer. Because I've got a grey contrast yarn, it's one of the main reasons I chose to change the colourwork chart. So, star, crescent moon, oh, is that snow outside? No, it's hail. Star, crescent moon, full moon, crescent moon, and I've repeated that through the colourwork chart. The colours I've used is, well, for the contrast yarn, I've used a, where is my yarn? For the colour, blah, 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 and you can see my, ignore that. There we go. For the contrast yarn, I have used this yarn, which is Homestead yarn, and it is the Tides base, which is a 70% wool, 30% silk. So it's Homestead yarn, and it is in colourway Seagull, colour Seagull. Apologies if I've had some camera noise there. I forgot to fix the focus on me, sorry. So the background colour is this one, which is not going to show very well at all. That looks black on my camera screen, but it's not, because you've seen the shawl, but it just looks really black. And it's not going to focus. But that is all I have left, because the other change I made to the shawl is I extended the amount of garter ridges that I did before I got to the edge. I think it should have been about that long before the edge, and I've added a lot more to use up the yarn. And it also meant my shawl would be a lot wider, or a little bit wider, because I wanted some extra length to it. But you can see there's about 4 inches maybe of garter ridges at the bottom before I got to the pick up edge at the bottom. And played yard chicken and won. So I'm going to try and stand up and show this whole thing, but I don't think I'll get it all on screen. No, I still can't get it all on screen. It's just that big. Wow. So, as I was saying, this yarn is my own hand dyed yarn. This is on my DK Merino base, and it is the colourway Spellbound, and it's this really dark violet purple, and it's a semi-solid, so there's lots of variation in the colour, which you can't see very well. You can a bit. I don't know if you can see it more on the garter section, possibly. There, lovely jubbly. There we go. I'm really happy with it. This is for when I'm in here in my craft room to be able to throw around to keep me warm, because it can get quite chilly in here. It's quite chilly in here today, actually. Like I said, we have hailstones. We're forecast for snow, but we don't get much of the snow. So as you can see, I can just kind of throw it over my shoulders, keep me warm, either when I'm sitting here in the window, which gets quite drafty, or if I'm meditating or such like in here as well. But I guess I could wear it if it was really cold outside, but it's very bulky. It would keep me warm. Well, that doesn't look too bad. I could cope with that. I look like I have a bob. Me and a bob. No. So that's finished object number 2. Okay, I've got to get on to the next finished object. I've actually got more whips than I'm going to show today, but I've got so many that I kind of started and not been worked on. I'm just going to wait until next time, but try to get through the finished objects anyway. So the next 2 finished objects, my only 2 other finished objects actually, they're both socks, so bear with me. Okay, my first finished sock project is this one, which I showed on the last episode, but both socks are now completely finished. It's an autumn colourway, which I loved, and I've done with contrast toes and heels. This is a DK weight. The orange is not. And if you watched the previous episode, you know I've been a bit of a boo-boo with this one. When I grabbed the yarn, the main yarn, which is this one, Novita Gnarly, which is probably not how you pronounce it in the slightest, but it is this one. There we go, and it is in colourway, let's try and find it. Which one's the colourway? Colour 864, and it is this fabulously autumnal colour. And when I reach for it in my sock knitting drawer with sock yarns in it. Pulled it out. Oh, autumn colour. Yeah, great. Started knitting on it, cast on, increased the toe to the right amount of stitches I needed for the toe, and started knitting the body. Obviously I was knitting in front of the TV or something because I wasn't concentrating. I knit so far and realised it was huge. Went and looked back at the yarn on Ravelry and realised it was a DQ weight. So I pulled back to halfway down the toe, picked up the amount of stitches I needed, did a few more rows in the orange to make the toe actually noticeable, and carried on knitting. So I think there are 22 or 24 stitches either side for this sock on the bottom and the top. I can't remember which. And I ended up doubling up the yarn for the heel and the cuff to make it more of a DK weight rather than a fingering weight. Although I didn't go up a needle size to carry on with the body, I just left it as is. So it's actually quite a dense for a DK weight sock, and when I knit the rest of the ball, because there should be enough to knit another pair of socks with contrast toes and heels, I will go up a needle size and knit until I run out. But I knit double for the heel because it'll be nice and sturdy. As for the cuff, I'm not sure if I will. No, I suppose if I'd gone down to fingering weight and then tried to knit the cuff, it would have been quite small with only 20 or 24 stitches, whatever it is. So glad I carried on and did double, held double for the cuff. But I didn't bother with the toe. I'd already done the toe and knit the toe, and it didn't matter because it's on 2.25mm as I would normally for fingering weight, and it'll be sturdy enough, and it doesn't look odd or anything like that, so it's fine. Yep, just my usual sock, toe up, Turkish cast on, knit toe up, heel flap and gusset, and I don't know if I did slip stitches. I didn't do slip stitches on the heel as I would normally because it's held double. I didn't bother, and it is a commercial sock yarn. It's not a merino base, so it's still fairly sturdy, and a 2x2 rib for the cuff. And I'm looking forward to wearing these because I've kept them new to show on the podcast, even though I finished these back in October, because that's how dedicated I am to showing new socks on the podcast. The exception is the Christmas socks that I've knit over Christmas, because they've both been worn, both my husband's pair and my pair, and they're in the wash, so they'll have to be shown next time. But I wasn't going to wait until January to wear them, so they'll just have to be slightly pilled when they're shown. Okay, the contrast toes and heel and toes, heel, cuff, collar is a yarn I haven't got to hand, and it depending on how much time this takes to record as to whether or not I will show it, because it's attached to another project at the moment, or the remainder of it is. But I used this yarn, which is opal yarn, opal 4-ply 100-gram ball it comes in, and the colourway is 5181, and it's a bright, as you can see, bright orange. It actually looked brighter in the ball than it came up on this. This looks actually really bright on screen. It's not quite that bright on screen. It's more like the orange that's in the actual variegated yarn. But in the ball it does look that bright. It's like neon orange near enough, which is why it's attached to another project, which I'll actually mention. I have cast on the Marled Magic Sweater by Stephen West, and I'm going to be short. I'm using one of my Advent mini sets from a couple of years back, held double with a grey yarn, and I was getting a bit low on doing one of the sections, and the yarns I'm using are quite neon colours, so I was a bit able to pull this from my stash to kind of top up on the orangey sections, so that's why it's not with the ball band. Okay, final finished object for this episode is another pair of autumnal socks. These ones I knit in October for Halloween because I thought the main colour was quite Halloweenish in a sense. Okay, if you don't know me very well, I have a lot of hobbies. Knitting, spinning, roller derby, lots and lots and lots of different hobbies, and one of them is a particular computer game. I'm not a huge gamer. I'm not what I would call a gamer, and I don't have a console or anything. I have a laptop PC, but I do play one game, and it's called Guild Wars 2. So if you're a gamer and you know games, you know what it's kind of like World of Warcraft, but better. Don't hate me. And in October there is an event that takes place in the game called the Mad King Thorn. It takes over kind of one of the capitals in the game, and the colours in the place called Lion's Arch during the event are all kind of these colours. This is what this reminds me of, is the event on the game and some of the mini games at the time for the Halloween event. So I call these my Mad King Thorn socks, which unless you play the game you obviously don't get the relevance, but I mean you could always Google it. So these ones were knit during October for just a bit of fun for the event. Again, I've done contrast toes and heels in orange, but not the same orange. They're going to kind of show similar on screen, but they're not. Let's see, that one's very like a bluey orange, like a cool neon-y orange, and this one's more of a yellow orange, which goes much better with these harvesty colours. In fact, I think the colourway is called something like Harvest Time. The main body of the sock is this yarn, which looks less Halloween-y and more autumnal there, but when you add it with the orange here, to me it just seems more Halloweenish with the purples, and it's not black, it's more of a maroon colour, this one, like a maroon brown, very dark brown with red undertones rather than the plummy burgundy here. The yarn is King Cole Zigzag, which I'm not sure if it's going to show. Let's see if I can get it to work. There we go, King Cole Zigzag, and the colourway is 3163, but I think it's called something like Harvest Time or something like that. And this is a fingering weight. It feels, it's got a really nice fit. I like a sock that's got a woolly feel to it, not prickly, but you know, kind of like, it's just got that woolly feel to it. It's one of the reasons that I really like a good commercial sock yarn. Some are better than others, obviously. West Yorkshire Spinnets is a really nice one. The Toes and Heels is another commercial yarn. Is a Cascade Heritage yarn in colourway 5646. And it like this kind of yellowy orange. It's not a yellowy orange, but it's definitely on the yellower side for an orange. And my usual recipe, you know, I've done toe up, Turkish cast on, stockinette, heel flap and gusset, my hair. It has a eye of partridge heel and up the back, stockinette again, and then a 2x2 rib at the top. I must get around to doing a twisted rib cuff at some point. I tried it once and got like half an inch and decided that wasn't for me, but I had followed a tutorial where you were twisting the pearl stitches, and it was such a faff that I just couldn't be done with it. But since then I've done a rib with twisted rib on another sweater that I cast on, and you're twisting the knit stitches, and I thought, this is easy. Why would I twist the pearl stitches when I can twist it? So I'm going to do a cuff with a twisted rib at some point because I think it looks really pretty. So these I really want to get in circulation again as well. So there's those, and that is my final finished object. I don't think there's anything else to say about it. 2.25mm, 9-inch circular for the stockinette sections up there. I have just bought a 2mm Chai-Goo needle to try, because I do knit looser on the 9-inch circular, which on the commercial sock yarns is okay because they're so much woollier and fluffier. You can't tell, but when I've knit with indie dyed yarn, it's a bit of a looser gauge. I'm not happy with it. I'm having to really be careful that I'm keeping the yarn held tight enough to make sure my stitches aren't too loose. So I bought the 2mm circular to use for commercial sock yarns, indie dyed sock yarns. I do have a couple on the needles at the moment. One of them is more of a light fingering weight, so I'm testing out this 2mm circular to see how that goes for that. So that's the final finished object. So now we get on to whips, and I'm only going to show the active ones at the moment. Okay, I'll probably only show the one main active one. I have 1, 2, 3 pairs of socks on the needles, but I haven't worked on either of them for at least a week. And I've only done the toe mostly on them as well. I have cast on the Salem sweater, and I'm making it much more complicated than I need to for that one, but I can talk about that more next time, because again, I'm not really actively working on it. I cast on a lot of things over the Christmas period that I was itching to cast on, but they're kind of now got over the hard bit of casting them on and the complicated and thinky bit, so now I can just crack on with them, but I'm not cracking on with them right now. I've also cast on the Bly cardigan by Amy Christopherson, I believe. Is it Amy Christopherson or Christophers? I'll put it on screen. And I've cast on, like I said, the Mild Magic sweater by Stephen West, and trying to remember if there's anything else. I think that's all of the 3 extra ones I've cast on. But the one I am working on is the sweater. I want to knit plenty of garments and socks because that's what we tend to wear most of. I work from home. I don't leave the house a huge amount, although none of us are at the moment. So having stuff I can wear in the house is more of a priority. So shawls are great, but I don't wear many shawls around the house. So the item I have been working on is a sweater for my husband, and I haven't got a picture of it because there isn't one on this printout, but it's a free pattern, and it is I've written on the top, it's the Flax sweater by Tin Can Knits. And it's not the light, it's just the original flax sweater, and it is very floofy and speckly and really soft. The flax sweater is a basic top-down raglan sweater. Like, this is a free pattern. Lots of people have heard of it. If you haven't, you should check it out. And Tin Can Knits, its patterns are lovely. And from the collar at the top all the way down the sleeves is this garter panel that runs down. The rest of the sweater is just stockinette and this garter panel down the sleeves. Now, as you can see, I've got quite a way on this sweater. I'm way past the point of separating. I'm probably halfway down the body, dependent. My husband is quite tall. He's 6'3". Although when he stands up straight, he's 6'3". He has quite a long back, and there is the option on this pattern to do short row shaping at the back, which I have done because he has quite a long back, and you know, an arch like a lot of tall people have. He's always slightly stooped, so he's got quite a round shoulder area, and sweaters tend to lift up at the back, so I have made it longer, and I will make sure I knit this long enough so when he's wearing it, it covers the top of his trousers. So yeah, I am knitting this on, let's see, what am I knitting it on? 4.5mm needles. I've actually only got one needle on at the moment because I put on a longer cable so we could try on the sweater, which he hasn't done yet actually. I might do that after I've finished recording because he is home from work now, or home from his morning shift. I am knitting this held double to make kind of an worsted weight. Again, using from my drop stash, I'm using Drops Flora, which I bought. I have quite a big drop stash that I bought a few years ago in the sale before I knew about their ethics, but I have a big drop stash, and I had bought this for another project, and when it came I didn't like the shade of green, or it was a shade of green that wouldn't work for me for the project I had in mind, so I wasn't sure what to do with it. And then I'd seen somebody knit, I don't know if it was the flax sweater, I think it was It might have been the what's that one by? It was a sweater by Petite Knits, which was a basic top-down raglan, and somebody on Ravelry in the projects had held it double with the dark green mohair, silk mohair, which darkened down this green nicely and made these lovely flecks. My husband's favourite colour is green, but he's not going to wear this shade of green, and I'm not going to wear this shade of green. But held double with this makes a really nice colour of green. This is, again, drops. Try to find a label. It's not the Drops Flora. Okay, this is the Drops Kid Silk, and it is where is it? 75% mohair, 25% silk, held together with the Drops Flora, which is the alpaca wool blend. And this is really light, like super light. Like, I love this. I've never really jumped on the mohair held double bandwagon. I have a skein of it I bought a while back for something to try it, because I wasn't sure if I would like the prickle factor. I wasn't sure if I'd find it prickly, because the only mohair I've handled before in the past has been super prickly. But this, oh, I can see the appeal. So much so I've cast myself on a fluffy sweater, but not with a mohair one, with a different blend. That's for the Salem sweater. But I can see myself have to have a mohair, lightweight, fluffy sweater, because this is, it's like knitting with kitten fur. It's so soft. So that is my main work in progress. I don't know if there's much to say about it other than the colour is coming out fabulous, and I am putting it back in its project bag, which is one that I made. I made some project bags. I should have brought my project bags to show. I should maybe have to do that on the next episode. Oops, trapping the yarn there. I made project bags for lots of people for Christmas. Some for me as well, and this is one of them. I got this fabulous witchy black cat raven. Is that a raven or a crow? Looks like a raven. Fabric from eBay, and I've used it with a semi-solid kind of tonal fabric for the bottom. And I made a whole bunch of these, not just this fabric. I've got some that's got kind of black silhouette-y, black and grey silhouette-y trees from the same line as this, so it's very similar to stuff like this. And I made some with, I haven't got any of the other project bags. Oh, here's another one that I made for myself with the same fabric, but with the tree fabric I was talking about. So I've got that, and I've used that at the top with some grey, that's similar grey to this, on the bottom for myself and for my sister for Christmas bags. And I got some really nice purple fabric with woodland creatures and stuff on for my mum, and a friend of mine, she got some of the witchy ones as well. So I made a huge batch of these, not huge but a large batch of these project bags to give as gifts, and it meant less Christmas knitting gifts this year, which was quite a relief, because when it's close to Christmas and you feel it, oh, it's a lot of rush. But yeah, they worked out really well. So it's in one of my larger ones that can fit a small sweater quantity in it, or you know, that's for my husband and it fits in, so reasonable sweater quantity. I also did a huge one, which is sort of like this big. It's like as big as a big cushion, and it's quite deep, and it's got deers on it. Slightly festive, but you could kind of get away with it most of the year round, because it's got that kind of Nordic look about it, in greys and reds. So yes, lots of sewing as well, and I will try to remember to bring them for the next podcast actually. So I would say on to future knitting, but I have already mentioned I'm the Mild Magic, the Salem, the Bly, I'm sure there's another sweater I've got on the knee. Still haven't cast on the Witching Hour swan shawl, which is going to be a sweater for me, but we shall see. I will if I've started it, you'll obviously see it in the future, and if I haven't, well, yeah. But I'll show you the other projects and the other socks on the next episode, which hopefully won't be too long. But this episode's getting quite long, and I don't want it to be super long. No woolly acquisitions this episode. One of my plans, it's really dark in here. I do apologise. Let me just see if I can do anything with that. I'm not sure I can do much with the lighting today. It's a really, I was hoping today would be a brighter day, but it's not. It's really cloudy here, and I didn't want to put studio lights on, so I'm sat kind of in the window. The window is here, like here, and so my background's quite dark today, so I do apologise for that. So, future plans for this year. Well, I want to knit as much from stash as possible. I got a little bit of Christmas money from my grandparents, which I'm going to keep by. So if I want to buy anything yarny, I'll use that for. Mostly I think is if I want to order some more hair or something like that to hold alongside yarns that I've already got. Because I have a lot of knitting plans. So I've got the sweaters I've already mentioned, and there's always socks on the go, but I have quite a big stash. I want to try and get through at least some of the commercial yarn stash, the drop stash. I have a lot of the Aran weight, and I'd like to get at least a couple of sweaters for myself and my husband knit for next winter out of those. They're very much a heavier weight yarn, not much good casting them on at the moment, because we've got the summer coming up. So I'd like to get through those, get through quite a bit of a commercial yarn. But yeah, it's always the plan. I didn't buy a huge amount to add to my stash last year, other than the odd ball of sock yarn. And I'm going to try and do the same again this year, and plough through, at least get a dent in that stash. As for the rest of the year, who knows what will happen. My husband went back to work today. The schools went, well, the schools in Scotland, we're in Scotland, I didn't mention before, we live on an island off the north coast of Scotland. We live on the Orkney Islands, and in Scotland we've just gone back into lockdown for the mainland of Scotland. The islands are in what Scotland's tier 3 is, which is it's not a strict cafes, restaurants and stuff can still open in a limited capacity, shops can still open and stuff like that, but you can't now meet other folks in houses and such like, which is fine. But the schools are closed across Scotland for the next few weeks, except for key worker children and vulnerable children. So because the schools have gone back to work today, my husband's gone back to work today, and he's a school bus driver, so he's done his morning shift picking up children, taking them to school, and he'll be back out this afternoon. Apologies, got cut short there. I'm not sure why it went off. Anyway, so my husband was back at work today doing his morning shift. He only had one child on his bus, but the schools are not, there's weird start dates, so I think work are going to leave it a few days and see how many children are on his school run. Otherwise, I'm not sure what's going to happen. Maybe it'll be furloughed again, but we shall see. As for myself, I took a lot of time off last year from the business. I have two businesses. I have a self-catering property as well as the yarn dyeing business, so again there was a lot of upheaval and such like. So this year I need to focus back on building up my yarn stocks again. I do have yarn in the shop, but I haven't added much to it this year. I have a little bit I need to add to it in a couple of weeks time, but we're up to tax season. I have to file my tax return at the end of the month, so that is a priority. After that I can upload the few yarns I have that need to be uploaded to the Etsy shop, and then start thinking about adding extra yarns, dyeing up more yarns for the shop. So I'm not sure what's going to happen this year. I think it's going to be another one of those play it by ear years, and yeah, hopefully we can move on from this absolute chaos of last year soon, but who knows. Right, I'm going to go and have some lunch, I believe. I'm not sure what time it is, but it must be getting close. If not, it's at least time for a cup of tea. So I hope to see you again soon, and look after yourselves and keep on keeping on, and I shall hopefully speak to you in, you know, a couple of weeks' time. Okay, bye bye.